From the backstretch at Saratoga, this is Loose on the Lead with Steve Bick and Seth Merrow. Loose on the Lead is sponsored by...
Good morning. Welcome to Loose on the Lead on a Sunday morning. Typically Steve Bick and myself, but Steve was down at the Haskell this week. Thought he was going to make it back, but texted me yesterday and it got delayed down there. So I'm solo, but that's okay because we have a fun show this morning, as I alluded to a little bit earlier. Coming up in a few minutes, our friend Richard Migliori will join us. We'll talk a little bit about how the meet's been going so far, maybe get some thoughts this afternoon on the matchup between Clairiere and Nest. Also coming up a little bit later on, I mentioned Alex Sausville, nice local young guy who is in the horse racing industry in a big way, went to the racetrack industry program at the University of Arizona. He's hot walk for Todd Pletcher. He's worked for the Breeders' Cup. He was working for Colonial Downs for a while, but now he's with the Godolphin Flaying Start program. So I wanted to get a little info on that, certainly, and his world travels so far and upcoming. So that's coming up in the last segment. But kicking off the show is our friend Dan Collins from Bonaventure Stable, one of our sponsors here in the network. So we always like to have Dan come over once or twice during the meet. And I thought, what better time to kick off the season with our friends at Bonaventure than today? Oceans Reserve a little bit later on, and a first-time starter coming up on Wednesday. Dan, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy to have you on board on a day where I'm sure there has to be a little excitement in the air.
Yes, we're pretty excited about Oceans Reserve. You know, he started his 4-year-old career with a really strong second place finish at Belmont, and then he won by 4 lengths in his second race. Now this will be his first 2023 Saratoga start. It's a tough race, but he's ready. Yeah, we'll
hit on him a little more in a few minutes, and also the nice weekend you had down at Belmont, including him just a few weeks ago. But let's talk first a little bit about the partnership, because we always like to, when we bring partnerships in here, talk a little bit about, if folks are out there and kind of getting pulled into the game a little bit, how much fun it is to be part of a partnership. And I think a lot of that fun ties into, particularly with an outfit like yours, right up here at Saratoga. There's a big social aspect to being in a partnership. And up here at Saratoga, you get to come to the backstretch and go to the paddock. And I know you've got your party coming up, your annual party coming up next week. So talk a little bit about the partnership and how people can find out more information too.
Sure. Well, as you know, we're about 20 years old. We started in 2005, and we have about 75 people involved in our 6 different horses. A little small this year, but right now we have 6. And we do something a little different than most of the partnerships. When you buy into a share at Bonaventure Stables, that includes all the first-year costs. So you're not going to get a bill the next month for training costs, especially since we're purchasing 2-year-olds. And, you know, we hope they can run as 2-year-olds. Sometimes they can't run until 3-year-olds. And then it's the social aspect. We have a number of events during the year that we try to bring all our partners together and let them get to know each other. And it's been very successful. As you mentioned, we've got 80 people coming in. We've rented out the paddock suite for next Saturday. We'll take them on a stable tour in the morning, and we have a big party the night before. So we try to treat them as if they were family.
Yeah, I have been to the party, and I've been to the paddock suite last year. You guys asked me to come handicap, and I grabbed a little lunch as well. First of all, that was being with you guys is always a lot of fun. It used to be in the tent. I did that for years. Yep. But B, I will add that was my first experience in the paddock suites there. That's a nice new addition to the facility, I think.
It is a nice new addition. It's air conditioned. There's a beautiful balcony, so you can overlook both the paddock and the horses walking into the track. And we try to do something that makes the partners understand that we appreciate their support.
And again, you have the party the night before too at various locations downtown. Have a lot of fun there. Always enjoy meeting up partners. I know some of them locally, and you have a mix of locals and folks who aren't local necessarily in the partnership.
We do. We have a fair number that are in the greater Saratoga area. We pick up a couple new ones every year thanks to the Capital Land OTB channel and the exposure we get there. And then we've got partners as far away as Texas, um, uh, Colorado, but most of them are New York based, various places in New York. We do have a large group from Boston, oddly enough, a group of about 10, 20 somethings. And they bought a couple shares actually into the horse running today. So
nice. And talk a little bit about the name, Bonaventure.
Bonaventure is a combination of, I went to college at St. Bonaventure University. The Latin for Bonaventure is good journey, and that's what we hope for all of our horses and our riders every day. And we're just big St. Bonaventure fans. We've got a lot of St. Bonaventure graduates involved, and we have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've told you many times before. My late brother was a St. Bonaventure grad as well, as a friend Mike, who we were talking
That's
to.
correct.
I have to talk about his former roommate, who is a big racing fan. Certainly, always fun to see Mike over on the front side as well. If folks are looking to get involved, how do they do that? Certainly, if they see you around the track, they can come check in with you.
There's really two primary ways that they can get involved. They can go to our website. It's simply Bonaventure Stables, all one word, .com, or they can send me an email. There's an email address on the website, and just send in the inquiry and we'll be happy to get back. You can even just give me a call directly.
Very good. And I always, when I get somebody from a partnership in here and we're talking about, hey, get involved in the game and kind of have some fun and get involved in ownership, I always like to, give the gamut here. There are partnerships on the low end, there are partnerships on the high end, and it is certainly worth, if you're thinking about it, doing a little bit of research and kind of finding your right level and learning a little bit more about the game. And part of that is, if folks do see you at the track, they can take some time and talk to you and maybe meet up with some of the other partners and see what their experience was.
That's true. We're frankly a family-run business. We don't have any employees. I'm the lead of it, but my wife is the chief financial officer, so to speak. Our daughters and son-in-laws are involved as well, giving tours during the summer. And so we try to keep it a friendly family-type atmosphere. We're not trying to be one of the mega partners we can't do that. It's not the way we're structured. So, our owners go out to the stables by themselves. I don't necessarily have to go with them. And our trainers understand that, and they work with us, and they treat everyone as if they are the most important owner.
Talk a little bit about your trainers. I know, again, on that big weekend, I was watching the interviews in the winner's circle with Leah Giramati, and she talked about how fun it is to work with you guys and the partners as well. But talk about your trainers.
So we have two primary trainers, Leah Giramati, who's been with us since the beginning, was our first New York partner, and George Weaver, who we joined us about 3 years after that. Both of them are excellent trainers. They've worked on this game for a long time. Leah was an assistant to the great Alan Jerkins. George was an assistant to Todd Pletcher. They know their business, and they understand that as a partnership, we can't be there all the time. And the partners will come in and they want to see their horses and they help them. And everybody's on a first name basis. And these trainers respect what we do, and we respect what they do.
Yeah, and you got a couple of really good ones there. Nice lineage as well. A little Pletcher, a little Ellen Jerkins. Right. How much fun was it to see George win at Royal Ascot this year?
That was pretty amazing, especially with the tragedy that affected his wife, Cindy. She's recovering, but it's going to be a long road back. And for George to be able to take Cindy to Ascot with him and then to win that race, I mean, that barn is the happiest barn I've seen all year.
Yeah, immediately after the race, I was on the radio with Steve Bick that morning, and I was kind of waiting to come on, and he made a call and got George on the phone live right after the race. You could tell they were over the moon, and deservedly so. It was a great story, certainly. Before I get to these specifically, you've kind of alluded to it already, but again, partnerships of all kinds and all kinds of horses as well. Some of them are claiming partnerships. Some of them pop in and get the yearlings, 2-year-olds. Talk a little bit about what is your main focus as far as the horses you run and pick up.
Sure. We don't we don't play the claiming game very often. Every once in a while, we'll pick up a claiming horse. We have one named Brennan's War who broke his maiden this spring down at Belmont and will be running hopefully this coming Friday.
Oh, nice.
But he's an exception in the case. You know, we saw something in him with Leah, and she claimed him for us, and he's done very well for us. But we're focused on 2-year-olds. We don't necessarily purchase yearlings because you're almost a year and a half away before that horse can run. And who you never know. We've done it in the past, but it's not really worked for us. So we focus on 2-year-olds. We look for horses that are in moderately priced, where our trainer and our agent, Steve Venosa of SGV Thoroughbreds, where they feel for the money this horse is going to produce for us. So, you know, we're not looking at the $1 million horses. We're looking in that $125,000 to $175,000 range. So we can keep the cost of a full share, under $20,000.
And what are some of the sales you participate in?
We participate in both of the OBS sales in early spring. We participate in the Fasig-Tipton sale in the beginning of the year, and occasionally Fasig-Tipton's Timonium sale.
Very good. We'll talk a little bit about the first year you have coming up on Wednesday. That was one of those Fasig sales. But let's get to it today and get some thoughts on Ocean's Reserve, who, again, we're going to take a look at the win from just a few weeks ago, June 17th down at Belmont.
Always
Ocean's
charming
Reserve
on the
is
outside.
gonna be
Ocean's
#1
Reserve
horse here. Nice little win. Castellano on board that day for Leah Giamatti. Castellano back on board again today. Give us a little feeling for this race down at Belmont, the nice win down there, and how's the horse coming into this afternoon?
Well, you know, he, as I said earlier, he ran second first time out. This time he improved from that, and he enjoys the 7 furlong distance. I think it's his specialty, which is today's race. And he sticks toward the lead, but he comes at the end and he gives us everything every time. I mean, how can you fault a horse that's been in the money 9 out of 11 career races?
Yeah, this is certainly a very good performer if you're on the partnership side of things. 11 starts, as you say, been in the money, 9 of those, just under a couple of $100,000. And it's one of those that, yeah, you're going to get a good run every time. And it's a nice gutsy run coming up the rail there as well. You'll like to see that mentally.
It is. And, you know, it means something when Hall of Fame riders like Javier Castellano decide that this is the horse he wants to ride at this level. And he's ridden him 3 or 4 times for us now. It's been a thrill every time. He's on him again today, and it's just a pleasure to have Javier.
Yeah, we are clearly rooting for you, as noted. Always like to root for the local connections and whatnot. And I didn't pull up the replay, but I did pull up the chart here. I probably should have pulled up the replay and maybe put in the shot of the winner's circle, because the day after Ocean's Reserve won down at Belmont, Brennan's War won. And I told you, I think I have a little love for Brennan's War. My grandmother's maiden name was Brennan, so I certainly appreciate that. But the next day, Brennan's War won. And down in the winner's circle, I said I should have pulled the winner's circle picture because my friends Pat and Mary were in the winner's circle as participants in the partnership, and it was fun to see them down there representing. But you're saying Brennan's War is going to be coming up at the end of the week?
Well, we hope so. Actually, it's going to be. We hope this is a very busy week with us. We have Ocean's Reserve today. We have our 2-year-old first-time starter on Wednesday, Beautiful Thief. We enter Brennan's War Wednesday for Friday, hopefully stepping up into the allowance level. And then on Saturday, we have our 3-year-old filly first-time starter, Sail with the Wind, hopefully. So it could be a very busy week, and with 80 of our partners and their friends in town on Saturday, and Sail with the Wind probably racing, it's going to be exciting.
That would have a first-time starter win with the partners here. That would be golden. But let's talk a little bit about the first-time starter coming up on Wednesday, because I did pull up the video from the workout before the Fasig sale. Also pulled up the catalog page, and there's some nice little black type down the page. The one coming up on Wednesday, as you mentioned, Beautiful Thief. Talk a little bit about what attracted you guys to this one at the sale, and what you're expecting first time out on Wednesday from Beautiful Thief?
Well, earlier this spring, we had quickly, for a surprise reason, we had 4 horses either retired or claimed from us. And so we were a little short of horses. So Stephen Oso and George Weaver were at the Timonium sale, and we gave them a price range. It was a modest price range. And the next thing I know is George called and said, we've got them. We know what we need to buy. And they convinced me that Beautiful Thief was a horse that could produce for us. And so far, she's done nothing wrong in her training. And the only surprise we had is a week ago, George told me that we're probably into the second, third book. And the next thing you know is she went out and had a fantastic workout, and she's in. And Irod is riding.
Oh, nice.
And, again, we're excited because people like Irod Ortiz and Javier Castellano and Jose Ortiz, they don't ride just any horse.
Yeah. So that's Wednesday. And you say Saturday, the firster is Sail with the Wind. Give us a little background there.
Sail with the Wind is by Astern, and hence the name. And she is a talented filly. We're pointing her to run long for the first time on the turf. And she has a lot of turf background, and she's just bred for the turf. And she's a real happy girl, and we hope she makes us happy.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Just before we go, I'll also mention, because I pulled up the Equibase, one of the early runners for you guys certainly was notable as well, because Summer Fun, notable because you went to the Breeders' Cup and got a nice little third-place finish with the Bonaventure horse.
We did. Summer of Fun was probably our biggest breakthrough horse. For those wondering about a partnership, how you make money, we bought Summer of Fun for $90,000 as a 2-year-old. She won about $350,000, and we sold her for $350,000. So everybody got a nice payday at the end of that.
That's excellent. That's a lot of fun. All right, Dan, before we let you go, just again, remind people of the website.
The website is bonaventurestables.com. Bonaventure Stables being all one word. Look forward to hearing from you.
And again, you'll see Dan around the track, certainly on the days the horses are running, as well as, obviously today and Wednesday, and hopefully again Friday and Saturday as well. But you'll see Dan around the track also. Oh, great job. Guys have the website address right there. Good job, guys. Dan, always appreciate the visit. Good luck this afternoon. Good luck this week. And I'll see you Friday night and Saturday as well with the party and do a little handicap. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dan Collins from Bonaventure Stables. Coming up next, Richard Migliori. So stay tuned. Loose on the Lead continues.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Paul Brown. These two arch rivals hang ahead with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Welcome back to Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning, the second Sunday of the meet. And as promised a little bit earlier, happy to be joined by our buddy Richard Migliori. You see him on the Fox show. You see him around the track. If you were lucky enough to win the TRF auction last year, you'll see him in your kitchen making some dinner. Rich, good morning.
Actually, that happens Tuesday. I'll be out at Sue and Peter Bobley's. They're kind enough to allow us to use their home, their kitchen, beautiful kitchen. I'm actually more nervous about cooking for people, and I love to cook, and I love to cook for my family, but people you don't know, you want it to come out right.
Yeah. I'm curious because we were talking up in the press box about that dinner, and you were kind of laying out the menu. And if people follow your Twitter, my mouth is watering about half of the tweets. How did you get into cooking?
Well, it's interesting. My grandfather, when I was a kid, was a chef.
Okay.
And he was a partner in a restaurant. And I spent time at home and in the restaurant in the kitchen with him, not thinking I was picking anything up. And then over time, things that I started doing naturally, I said, wow, I learned that when I was 8, 9, 10 years old with my grandfather and didn't even realize it. And of course, when you starve for 30 years to be a jockey, right? And I haven't ridden in 14 years now.
Still in great shape, however.
Thank you. 30 pounds over my riding weight.
Wow.
But now you go, wow, I can actually enjoy this. And that's something I try to talk to young riders about now, Seth, that like you'll obsess about food because you can't have it, but there'll be a time when you can. So just relax and make the most of your riding career because there's plenty of life after it.
Yeah. And we were talking about the menu you have scheduled, and it seems like to me, the way you were talking, you're not so much a recipe guy as a play it by ear and
by feel.
Yeah.
By feel and what's
I like that.
And what's available. What's the best product right now? And one thing, like I live in the Hudson Valley, you have that opportunity more like farm to table. Go see what's really inspires you that day. So it's fun.
And speaking of your Twitter feed, and you mentioned it, living in the Hudson Valley. If folks do follow you on Twitter, you're part of that Fox show. So most of the year you're popping down to New York and then back up to the farm. This time of year, you and your wife, I know, are up here a lot and maybe get back to the farm a little bit as well. And for folks who are looking at your Twitter feed, they see pictures of you at the farm and you're talking about how much you love it. When did you buy the farm? Where is it? And just give us a feel for what goes on there.
Okay, so we had this idea for a very long time about when I was retired from riding, moving up to the Hudson Valley. And we would always stop with the kids on the way up here for the meeting in Millbrook, beautiful little town, have lunch. And it's about almost exactly halfway and then come the rest of the way. So I was coming down in 2009 from the meet. And listen, I was in the twilight of my career. The best thing I had going on was I was riding a lot for Godolphin and working with them in the mornings. And I stopped at a real estate and I said, this is kind of what I had in mind. They showed me some properties. This particular property had a nice barn, which was paramount to what we wanted, indoor arena on the hunt trails. So went ahead and took the plunge thinking we'll have this and eventually we'll move up there. 6 months later, my career ended. My son, Joseph, who handles Trevor McCarthy and Katie Davis, was already starting college. And my next son was going to start high school. And we said, well, should we make this move now? And we did. We moved from Long Island, moved up to the farm, sold the house on Long Island, not thinking I was going to wind up at the track a lot. I thought I was going to be a gentleman farmer. That lasted about 6 months. So it's a great balance. I love to retreat to the farm. It's quiet. I live on a dirt road. I have my horses, dogs, chickens, and then come back to the track and do my job, something that I love. I love the horses. I love the racing, and I love the interaction. Like one of the great joys of my day is if I get a break or I'm off air, come up to the press box, visit with you guys. I love the conversations and I love the camaraderie. And then, like I said, I've had my fill of you guys and I bomb back to the farm.
No, that is absolutely one of the nice things about the track, and certainly about Saratoga as well. You see people you haven't seen all year long and just reconnecting, having a lot of fun there as well. You mentioned your son Joe, who was up as a NYRA guy early on in the press box, and now he's gone off and blossomed in a career bloodstock agent and jockey agent as well. How many kids and how many are involved in the game?
Okay, so I have 4 children. Joseph being the oldest, 32, he's in the game. My son Philip, who's 28, nothing to do with the game, but he's going to get up here as many weekends as he can. He's got a terrific job and he's doing well. Luciano, 26, is here, and he's working at Solivo, actually,
Nice.
3 or 4 nights a week, bartending. And my daughter Gabrielle is into horses, works with horses. She's our baby, and she's the hostess in the Horseman's Lounge this summer here at the track.
Nice. And grandkid, saw the picture.
Yeah, Isabella, my granddaughter. And listen, I know everybody, you hear this your whole life. Wait till you have grandchildren. I'm here to tell you it's the truth. I mean, I love my children. I go over to see Isabella, and my heart's going to come out of my chest, and I'm going to spoil her rotten. That's just straight up front. That's it.
That's great. That's great. Very good. All right, let's get into some of the racing now because, we're now wrapping up the second week here at the meet. And why don't we start just by going back to yesterday and taking a look at the Coaching Club American Oaks. I said, and we'll talk a little bit about the 3-year-old males in a moment, that division is totally up in the air.
Yeah.
This one was pretty mischievous. I think she's firmly on top. But I think the performance yesterday by Wet Paint put her into the conversation. Certainly, she's the number 2 horse here. And it was a nice, gutsy little neck victory there from Wet Paint.
Well, it is. And to me, the pace was moderate. I don't think you got a fast pace here. The runner-up, Sacred Wish, I thought Manny Franco gave her a great ride. I like when riders try to seize the initiative, and he tried to put some separation between him and Wet Paint. Just had a better kick. She almost has a turn of foot like a turf horse, but on the dirt, that she actually has acceleration. A lot of times when you see a horse closing in a dirt race, it's because everybody else is coming back to them, right? They're collapsing. Yeah. It's not that the horse that's passing horses is accelerating so much. I don't think that's the case with Wet Paint. I think she has a true turn of foot on dirt.
And Brad Cox, after the race in the winner's circle, said something to that effect, that there is kind of a turf strategy, it's kind of a thing to the way Wet Paint runs. But again, that Coaching Club American Oaks, a grade 1 for the 3-year-old fillies, and she's now firmly in the picture. And I assume you agree, pretty mischievous, kind of at the top of the class.
Well, off the strength of her Oaks and her Acorn and those 2 grade 1s. And I wonder now what'll happen if Wet Paint wins the Alabama. Now you got a real conversation. But if she wins the test, just because now it looks like she's going another direction, turning back as where Wet Paint is stretching out, but they're both owned by Godolphin, so you can see they want to cover both categories.
It's going to be interesting for sure. But as I say, that category seems a little more defined. 3-year-old males, and we'll talk about 2 of the big races over the past couple of days there. 2 of the notable. The Curlin, not necessarily big, but could play into the bigger race, the Travers coming on. And we'll take a look now, going back a couple of days to Scotland. I like Scotland. Lightly raced. I thought it was a nice spot to introduce the horse to a stake, and the Curlin is restricted to 3-year-olds that haven't yet won a graded stake this year. So I thought it was a clever spot. Scotland ran well, and you'd think he goes on. Chad came out of that and said Blazing Sevens clearly won't go to the Travers, but nice run from Scotland.
Really nice run from Scotland. Lightly raced. A horse, to me, that showed more professionalism here in the Curlin than he had previous. And I'm not saying he wasn't professional before, but I think that proverbial light bulb has really gone on. A little bit of stops and starts in his run, even when he was winning in his first couple of races, there was more continuity to this. He was more focused, I thought, always stayed in the bridle. And Bill Mott had an interesting quote after the race that he always felt like when he stretched out and he had an opportunity to get into the bit, get balanced, get in a good rhythm, he was going to be better. I saw that there. He's definitely that, we always talk about it, that second half of the year horse. This is the quintessential second half of the year horse.
Let me ask you as a jockey, because I talk about it a lot when I'm in here handicapping, the light bulb moment. If you've ridden, is that a thing? Because if you've ridden a horse for 4 or 5 starts, and then all of a sudden in that 5th or 6th start, man, it's just a performance that jumps off. Is there a mental thing? Am I right? Is there a light bulb moment for some of these horses?
Absolutely, 100% there is. And much like people, and when we talk about 2-year-olds, you're talking about younger people, right? Children. There are kids that go into kindergarten and they walk in and they're intrepid, right? And they got this and they're ready for it. And then you got kids that there's that separation anxiety from their mom, their routine, their house, and you see. And then that balances out over the year, and then obviously going on in school. It's the same thing with young horses. Some of them have it. They know it. They see it. And some of them, And a lot of times, if you're by the paddock and you hear a young horse whinnying and hollering and kicking up a storm, that's the kid with the anxiety about, a new thing, a new setting, a new place. A lot of times people see a young horse, particularly a 2-year-old, get studdish. A lot of times it's not so much that they're studdish, it's that nervous energy manifests itself that way. They need to release it somehow. So again, think about horses like you would people. And just like, you get older horses that they've had the light bulb moment, but they're like people, that want to cut corners, do as little as possible, to get the result. And then you've got people and horses that are similar, where they're hardworking, overachieving, try harder. It's the same thing with horses. You get some horses that have all the advantages, the pedigree, the conformation, and they don't care that much. Then you get some little horse that maybe doesn't look the best conformed, but he wants it. Yeah. And there's a lot to that, being a herd leader as opposed to a follower. These are herd animals. And this is going to tell you one thing, but looking at the horse and figuring out their personality is going to tell you another thing. Perfect blend of handicapping is when you can combine the two, what you see on paper with what you see physically.
And that, I will compliment you and the whole Fox Show team. That's one of my favorite parts about the Fox Show. You and Maggie sometimes, or Acacia, will be out there, in the paddock and mentioning that, this horse is the winning, but the warm-ups, I think, is also, you guys go out there and really give some nice insights that, for me, even if I'm at the track, I don't know enough to see that stuff. But certainly if you're watching from far away, that's really important, I think.
Well, thank you for saying that. One of the things early on when I came on board with the Naira Fox shows, Maggie was doing an amazing job already with the paddock analysis and really breaking down horses' conformation and what she saw for particularly different surfaces.
Yeah.
And it kind of dawned on me that sometimes you'll see a horse in the paddock and they look one way, and then they get on the track and they look different. And there are horses that puff up, and when they start warming up, they really get focused. And I kind of introduced the idea of, how about if I followed it up from the paddock report to what you see on the racetrack? And honestly, and also because the people I work with are really good people like Maggie, we've kind of found a great balance and bounce off each other and play with that. And I think we're the first show or of this kind to kind of introduce that idea to it. There were a lot of doing paddock analysis, I don't think as well or in depth as Maggie and Acacia, but then piggybacking on that to the warm up and giving a whole picture to it.
Yeah, and talk to people, because again, I say it almost every day. I think up here our audience is a lot of hardcore people, but a lot of new people as well. So talk from a jockey standpoint. If folks aren't familiar, the warm-up's pretty important.
Warm-up's very important. And I really, I believe in good warm-ups. A horse being a flight animal, and the way their biology, the way their body is set up, they store 1/3 of their red blood cells in their spleen for like emergencies. A mountain lion's going to pounce and they can give you that short burst. If you don't warm a horse up properly, what they're going to do is dump all those red blood cells as soon as the gates open. And a jockey is essentially feeding on that flight instinct, right? What do you do when the doors open? You growl at one. Ha! That's replicating what they might feel in the recesses, for their instinct, right? You're preying on that a bit, but you don't want a horse to dump all their red blood cells instantly. So to me, if you warm them up properly, they're going to get into a better rhythm in the flow of the race.
Oh, that's interesting.
And stretch it out. So there is a physiological thing behind it. There's a science behind it. It's not just my opinion. This is reality.
That's interesting. I'd never heard the red blood cell thing, but it makes sense too. Because sometimes I look and I think, man, they're really working that horse out on the warm up, but that all plays into it.
Yeah, when you see a horse like just jog to the gate, I know the conventional wisdom behind it. And what the rider's thinking is, this is a really nervous horse, and I don't want to work them up more. But I think you're better off letting them get a nice gallop into them. Even if you stay with the pony, let them dispel some of that nervous energy. Then give them a chance to settle and walk to the gate. I think it's a big mistake to kind of keep that pent up.
And as I say, you guys do a great job of conveying all of that, which to me is helpful as a handicapper as well. And, for years and years, we've now been betting via TV and computer and whatnot, and don't really have access to that. And that's been a nice addition to the Fox show. And again, the Fox show overall, I continue to say, great for New York racing, but great for racing overall that we're spreading the word.
Kind of you to say.
a
I
little bit,
appreciate it.
but,
Thank you.
All right, I wanted to touch on a couple other things on the racetrack. First of all, I alluded to how undefined the 3-year-old scene is. We'll see. Wet paint or Scotland in the Curlin. We'll see if he goes on. We have the Jim Dandy coming up here. We got a report yesterday on the Forte workout from Mike McAdam sitting in here yesterday. We'll see how he goes forward a little bit. But yesterday, the picture continues to be undefined with the result in the Haskell and Go Rocket Ride getting it done. Mage, I think they said they were using it kind of as a prep for the Travers, so maybe they got what they wanted with the second. But what were your thoughts on that? And again, the 3-year-old scene at this point.
And we'll circle back to Forte with the blinkers, which I like, by the way. But listen, Go Rocket Ride has done nothing wrong, right? He 2 wins in a second. He was second in the San Felipe before winning the Affirm. Richard Mandela is not shipping a horse from Southern California to the Haskell to New Jersey unless he knows he's got the goods. He's not a guy that ships for no reason and takes shots. He's a master horseman.
He did say he's not coming back for the Travers, though, because he doesn't want to go back and forth.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. And we've seen that kind of blow up, too. I mean, it kind of blew up with American Pharaoh, didn't it? Right? He ran in the Haskell, shipped back, although maybe that gallop in front of a huge morning crowd might have took a little starch out of him, too. But he's a player, Go Rocket Ride. And again, when I looked at the Haskell beforehand, I said, wow, Richard's shipping in here. And I developed a really good relationship with Richard Mandela when we were in California. And anybody doesn't know him, he's got the funniest, driest sense of humor. I rode a horse for him off a layoff one day, and I said, the horse ran good. Richard, he just got tired. He said, are you telling me I ran a short horse? I said, I would never say that to your face. And he gets it. Like he's got a great sense of humor. How about Mike Smith picking up another top horse? I thought Mage ran a good race. He took his shot at him. Go Rocket Ride ran extremely well. Take nothing away from his performance. Monmouth maybe not the greatest fit for Mage's style, where a horse that could be more forward like Go Rocket Ride, I think maybe he's got a little bit of a tactical advantage, but great effort from both horses, I thought. I love the blinkers going on Forte. He's always been a horse less than generous in his morning training, even in the races, what I term a bicycle horse. If you're not pedaling, he's not running. I saw a different horse in the workout with the blinkers, stayed steadily in the bridle, one good rhythm, a lot of continuity to his stride and the workout itself, albeit a very slow work.
Yeah.
But I think there's different ways to judge workouts, and time being one way, and then what you see visually another, and combine the two, I think, to get a clearer picture. And
again, things may get clearer as we go through. Jim Dandy, Travers, Pennsylvania Derby coming up, but it's so far so it's this 3-year-old male, which makes the Travers maybe a little more fun. Maybe it will help define things going forward. And just before we let you go, I wanted to touch on one more. I mentioned it this morning on the handicapping show. Maybe not a betting race, but we get these up at Saratoga every year where a 4-horse field, so maybe you're not jumping in with enthusiasm betting-wise, but this is one you'll check mark at the end of the season as being a special race, the Shoevy this afternoon. Going to take a look at the stretch run from the Phipps. Clairiere in the last 2. I've liked her right along. And the last 2, the Apple Blossom and the Phipps, I thought were just absolutely sensational performances. But the 3-year-old Eclipse Runner Nest comes back today. So it's a 4-horse field, but it's exciting. Your thoughts?
It's very exciting. You've got a champion coming back with a leader of the older filly and mare division. And the thing that is amazing about Clairiere to me is she's able to run down good horses off of slow paces. And
that Apple Blossom didn't play to her at all.
Secret Oath got first run. She didn't get the pace scenario that was beneficial to her. And any normal horse would have ran second, and you would have said it was a great effort, right, to Secret Oath. No. She just dropped her head and went and got her. And we talk about wet paint having to turn a foot on dirt. Clairiere, I think, has it squared. I mean, she really – and, look at her pedigree. Curlin out of the mare. Now I'm drawing a blank. This is great.
Cavorting.
Yeah. I was going to say Coventry. Cavorting. She looks like such a blend of her sire and dam, and she's got the size, the scope. Now you got Ness coming back as a 4-year-old, and you're always interested in seeing how they made that step from 3 to 4. Now, we've had over the years fillies and mares, as well as colts and geldings. We see the 3-year-old take on the good older horse at the end of the year. We don't see as much, particularly fillies and mares, the good 4-year-old, the 3-year-old champion come back and forth, taking on the 5-year-old. And I like this trend. We're seeing horses race 4, 5, 6. I think it gives us an opportunity to create more fans, because people latch onto a horse then when you have a prolonged period of time where you're following them. It creates a fan base.
Yeah. Good on Stone Street for bringing her
Absolutely.
back, Clary back. Yeah. She's just. I'm looking forward to it today. As I say, I won't be putting any betting money necessarily. Although in the horizontals, maybe you play around a little bit. But I'm looking forward to seeing those two square off. Always look forward to seeing you, Rich Migliore. Again, you and everybody do a great job on the Fox show, so we're happy to have you up here again this summer. And I knew we had to get you in. Maybe we'll squeeze you in sometime before the season ends as well, but certainly wanted to get a little meet kickoff, and we're a week in, get some thoughts on what's gone on so far. So again, thanks for stopping by.
Well, thank you for having me. Lovely setting here. Great talking horse with you. And for everybody at home, sorry I didn't get dressed up. My suits are in the office. I get dressed right before I go on air.
No problem, because I told you when you sat down, you're right with probably 80% of the guests, because we're here on the backstretch in the morning, so everybody is dressed appropriately for that. I wish I could do that, particularly the hot mornings last week. But appreciate the visit, Rich.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break. As promised, when we come back, Alex Sausville will join us, part of the Godolphin Flying Start program. We'll get a little heads up on where he's been, where he's going around the world, all of that right after this. Stay tuned.
Turn your love of racing into savings with equine discounts through the NTRA. Purchase through equine discounts and receive great savings on well-known brands like John Deere, Sherwin-Williams, Big Ass Fans, Farmers Insurance, and Office Depot. Join thousands of other equine members and support companies that give back to the sport we all love. Call 866-678-4289 or visit equinediscounts.com to start saving today.
The Clubhouse Racebook is the Capital Region's new home for racing and sports. 25,000 square feet of Vegas-style action with live wagering on the best horse racing from around the world. 260 flat-screen televisions and state-of-the-art wagering terminals. So don't miss out. The fun is only minutes away at 711 Central Avenue, Albany, just off Exit 5 of I-90. And don't forget, if you can't make it to the Clubhouse, you can always wager online 24/7 at CapitalOTB.com.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning. As promised before the break, saw him in the winner's circle yesterday. That's the way I roll. I'm plugging people in and trying to get the latest news and whatnot. But I saw Alex in the winner's circle yesterday and knew we had to get him over here to talk about his exciting adventures with Godolphin Flying Start and beyond. Local product in the horse racing game in a big way now. Alex Sausville. Alex, good morning.
You caught it a very good time too. That was the best part of the day.
That was certainly a lot of fun, and you popped in for the winner's circle photo as well. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that's part of the Godolphin Flying Start perks.
Yeah, it's part of the way Godolphin treats us as a part of the program. It really is, and they have been wonderful. And I'm fortunate. I live pretty close to here, so I get to spend a few afternoons up in the spa.
Nothing wrong with that. You're home for a few days, but very busy. We'll talk Flying Start in a few moments. But first, let's start out. I mentioned it when I was leading into the show. Part of a state championship basketball team down at Scotia. Talk a little bit about that. Wasn't your dad assistant coaching as well? And
he was. Yeah, actually, funny enough, we had myself, a couple of the guys that played with me, Dom Lamorta, Joe Cremo, Scott Sapir, were all at the track yesterday. So we had a kind of a get together of the guys. And it's amazing to look back on it because now my dad's coaching the high school team at Scotia, and I'm coaching the summer league team at the moment
nice.
while I'm here. We've won a few games, which is good, but yeah, it's pretty cool. We were reminiscent about some of it yesterday.
Excellent. And I was reading an article. I think Mike McAdam had written it. I was reading last night in prep for this. Record number of 3-pointers in was it the championship game?
Yeah. The stroke's still there. I don't know if the legs are there as much as they were.
I was about to say, I was a 3-point guy for a long time. Now I play with the old guys at the Y in the mornings, and the 3-pointer. I'm not sure if it's the legs or.
I think I saw you play in the jockey trainer game before.
Yeah. Umberto of the chaplain this year said, "You're going to play again?" I said, "I scored my basket like 3 years ago. I finally scored a basket, and I retired quickly from that." But so that's very good. That was about 9-10 years ago, the state championship, and then kind of on to a career, St. John Fisher's college graduate, and then on to the racetrack industry program at the University of Arizona. And since I have you here, I'll let you talk a little bit about that, because again, we get people watching who are new to the game, certainly young people, and maybe thinking, I like a career in the racing industry. And the racetrack industry program is a great program to move people in that direction. Talk about it.
Well, funny enough, that was the first question I always had was, how do you work in horse racing? Which, looking at it now, and have worked in the industry quite a bit, I'm like, oh, there's all these opportunities, but when you're not in it, you don't know where any of them are.
People think you got to be a trainer or a jockey and don't realize this is a huge business. You can, whatever your interest is, you can become involved in the game.
And that's where it worked out for me, going to Arizona, meeting. I only found out about it through Pete Aiello, and I just met Pete on one of my racetrack visits. And from there, it changed everything for me. I went out there, moved to Tucson, which was a big move, especially coming from here. But the things I got to do, the people I got to meet, I started visiting racetracks throughout on my drives there, meeting different alumni, guest speakers, all of that. It's amazing how much of the meeting those people, the things I did there, 2-3 years down the line, I ran into those people in the industry. Some of them I got jobs out of, and just some things you don't expect, that this industry is really small, but really big as far as the ground it covers, but the people you meet.
And the racetrack industry program has some notable alumni, certainly Todd Pletcher, Bob Baffert, and then those guys come back, and we'll talk to the current classes, correct?
Yeah, we've had a few instances. We have our big symposium every year where we have people come back, and they had Bob and Todd come back. And we even have a lot of people here that work at NYRA that are graduates.
How did you get into the game? How did you become a fan? You're down in Scotia, so I'm assuming Saratoga played into it, but how'd you get into the game?
Well, the simplest answer is I grew up right over there, or I grew up right over there. The night was at the harness track, the day was at the flat track, and that was kind of how I grew up with my dad. And then the big thing I started doing is just as a hobby outside of basketball season, started visiting racetracks, went to some of the biggest here we had in the States, Keeneland, Belmont, Saratoga, and went to some of the smallest that we had. I went to Beulah Park, I went to Thistledown, I went to a few of those, and kind of got to see every aspect from the biggest to the smallest and everything in between. And that piqued my interest of the industry. And then since then, it just kind of grew into learning more about how everything was done, racing side, breeding size, management, all that. And it's kind of just kept going from there.
I know, following on Twitter and just talking to you, we had you in the studio talking about, I think, racetrack industry program in particular 2 or 3 years ago. And so just talking there and whatnot, you and I think your father as well have been on the journey of checking off racetracks. How many racetracks now have been checked off? So, not just live racing, you've been to some defunct tracks as well.
So the grand total right now is 219 at the moment. But we're gonna break live racing 100 in a week and a half. So
going to
Japan.
Oh, nice. All right, we'll hit on that in a moment. But I did, again, as part of prep for guests, I'll look at the Twitter feed, and I was scrolling down. I did not have to scroll too far down, so I was laughing. I had 6 tracks before I'd gone down too far. There was Belterra, there was Thistledown. There was you stopped at Pompano and had the frozen tote board behind you. It's sad to see Pompano go, but Gabe Pruitt had mentioned that the tote board was still kind of frozen, but subsequently he tweeted out a few days ago that the facility's now getting the tear down, which is just unfortunate. But you were there, and some other Presque Isle most recently, I'm assuming, on the way. Yeah, talk about some of the visits recently.
Well, funny enough, I spent enough time. I lived with Gabe down in Florida, so I spent quite a bit of time at Pompano. I don't think the tote board worked when they were running, but it stayed there for X amount of time, so I could go see it that day. But yeah, it's been just a kind of a mix. We were based in Kentucky the last 6 months, so I did a little bit of traveling, but probably not as much as far as that. The last month or so, I had a bit of time, and so I went out to Indiana and Hoosier. I did the double there. I went out for the Stephen Foster. Godolphin had Proxy and Wadsworth running that day, and I went up to Ohio for the Ohio Derby. So then I started to get on the road a little bit more. But when we were based in Kentucky, we have a lot of lectures, visits, practical rotations, so it was a little bit less. And then when we were in Ireland, England, some of those, I got here and there, I'd jump out and just go visit a few tracks, Epsom, Ascot, Newbury, just kind of went. But it hasn't been as much as when I was a little bit younger and had the time, but everything's racing oriented, I guess, in the long run.
And let's get into that. First, let's talk about leaving the racetrack industry program, because from there you were hot walking for Todd Pletcher and doing a little work at Colonial Downs. Talk about the interim, what you did leaving University of Arizona before you moved over to the Irish National Stud.
Well, the part I always laugh about is I spent the first 22 years of my life in New York State, and I think the first 3 years of being in the industry, I lived in about 6 different states and moved around everywhere, and it was really fun. It was awesome. So I left the Arizona program and went straight out and worked at Stone Farm for the Hancocks. I did a breeding season there. Finished that up, and I ended up going to Colonial and went there, was there for half the meet until COVID shut us down. Went back, worked for the Breeders' Cup in Lexington. That was during the Keeneland, the first Keeneland or second Keeneland Breeders' Cup. So I got to see that. That was really cool, seeing how they worked around COVID restrictions, put together a race meet, got people in there that they could, and that was a great learning experience. Went down to see Todd and worked for Todd for 3-4 months. Ended up going back to Colonial for a bit, and then I ended up moving back to Kentucky. Just helped out with a trainer, Mike Tomlinson, out at Churchill, who I'm good friends with, and they ended up helping me just on a whim go work for Hunter Valley, doing a consigning at the Keeneland and Phasing sales, and kind of landed in the perfect spot at that time because they were selling She Dares the Devil at that time. So I got to be a part of that, and that was an experience unlike no other. Really was. And then from there, it was off to the Irish National Stud, and from there to the Flying Start.
And as I understand it, the Irish National Stud is kind of a similar situation to Godolphin in that you're part of a class that gets accepted. And so talk a little bit about going over and being at the Irish National Stud.
They're both case studies in themselves. In the Irish National Stud, you live in one big hostel with 30 other kids, and you just interact. You're working together on the farm, and you get different rotations, whether you're in stallions or you're working with mares and foals, or they have like kind of an assignment each week that we do. And it gives us a full overview of really how a farm like that runs. And even the Irish National Stud, even more, it's a tourist attraction. I mean, they have people walking through. You're bringing a mare and foal in, and you have people to your left and right wanting to pet the foal or take pictures. And it's a very rare place that you'll see, but it's an experience. And the people are so nice, and you get people from around the world. I mean, my class, we had people from Australia, New Zealand. We had a couple from France. We had one from Denmark, and just a wide variety of people all there to work there for 6 months.
And as I read it, you roomed with William Buick's brother.
I did, Andrew.
Yeah,
we spent 6 months living in this little dorm type room.
And then the article, again, I'll credit, I believe it was Mike McAdam, the article I was reading last night, noted that the Godolphin Flying Start program is very selective from all around the country. In your class, you're the lone U.S. representative, but you were waiting for either the phone call, yes, or the email, no, and you were in with your friends eating lunch at the Irish National Stud. When the phone call comes and you go outside and they're all kind of looking out the window, and take us through that.
That was probably the coolest experience of it all. Was I remember I felt the phone ring. I literally ran outside because I almost kicked my chair over because we were all eating lunch. And Andrew, my roommate, he was right inside the window when I was on the phone, and he looked at me and he gave me this thumbs up or down like this. And I gave him the thumbs up, and I just heard them all start cheering in the little cafeteria there. That was really cool because you share a lot of moments with the people you're on the course with. I mean, you go in there and you don't really know any of them. I knew one of the other students going in, and as time goes on, you're in the trenches with them. You're there every day with them. So 4 months in at that point, to have them so excited for me, and
great.
It was a really cool experience to share.
And for folks who aren't familiar, explain a little bit. Godolphin Flying Start, it's a global program. Again, every year it's a select group of young folks traveling around the world. Explain the program a little bit, and where have you been and where are you going?
So crazy enough, this was the 20th year. We were the 20th
Is that
class.
right? Wow.
So they've gone. They just had their big reunion this past year, or this couple out even a month ago in Ireland. Had a lot of graduates go back. And pretty much what the program is it's a 2-year training program through the thoroughbred industry. So we get brought through 5 countries through Godolphin and also through outside operations, doing all aspects of the thoroughbred industry. If it's breeding, it's racetrack management, veterinary. We do course modules at 3 different universities, University of Kentucky being one of them, equine nutrition. And we get just an overview of everything. And we all come in with different interests of the industry. Some of us are very focused on the sales. Some want to be in the breeding aspect. Some, like myself, grew up at the racetrack at the age of 3. So it's just, there's such a wide variety of what we come in, and we learn off each other. We get different experiences, and we share a lot of that.
So where have you been so far? And is Japan the next stop? Is that part of the program?
So Japan is something I'm kind of zigzagging. I'm doing a 7-day trip there on our way down. We start down in Australia on the 15th of August for our 2nd year. So our first year, we start in Ireland at Kildangan, Godolphin's operation there for 3 months. We do 2 months in Newmarket, and then we do 6 in Kentucky. So we just finished that up.
You can't go anywhere without a side trip to a track you haven't visited. I'm
It's
going to
nice.
Australia. I'll swing by Japan for a visit. I like that. I also like that you started the same way, the double header. Well, I was big with the double header myself. Saratoga,
Dad and I did it last night.
Very good, very good. Just as we wrap up here, so what is your goal in the industry?
So the one thing that's really been amazing, I've gotten to work with some amazing people and working. I mean, what I'd like to do is work and manage racing stock, blood stock, stuff like that, and work for a company where you're working with a group and you're managing people as much as you're managing the racing side of things. And I've had some people I've gotten to learn from over the past year, really, that are incredible at that. I got to spend some time with Solis Lit Bloodstock, who manages all of L&J Foxwoods. They work with Ripoli's, and I got to see what they do. They had Scotland this weekend run extremely well. But they were so welcoming and showing me everything and how they do things and how they work with different clients. And then Godolphin. I mean, I've said it to a lot of people in this way. I'm amazed every day the way Godolphin treats us, the way they welcome us to their operation. Where people like Dan Pride, Jerry Duffy, who manages Stoner Side, Danny Mulvihill, Gainsborough, they welcome us into their farms, show us how they do things, and include us on things like yesterday, which are experiences that for my group, we got to be there for the Kentucky Oaks and be there with Pretty Mischievous, and they will come to America very unsure of America. It's their first experience, and they left not wanting to leave.
Yeah, that's great. That's very good, certainly. And we wish you a lot of good luck going forward. And I started it talking about basketball, and again, going back to that article, I know you were crediting. I have a great nephew now who is a sophomore, I believe, but a very good basketball player. But part of that is I was talking to my sister, and she's saying, her son takes her grandson, to the gym 4 or 5 days a week at 5 a.m. And I said, oh, so they're playing a little basketball 5 and she, no, he just goes by himself and shoots at 5 a.m. And to be at that level, if you have a goal, you got to put in that work. And to be a state champion in high school, you had to put in that work. And I know you've credited a lot of that, because to get to where you've gotten now in the horse racing game, there has to be a lot of dedication and hard work.
It is. It's a testament to the Scotia basketball team that we had, the guys we had that worked together, our coaches, Jim Gemite, Glenn Stapira, unfortunately, who passed away. But, I mean, they had us in there every morning. They had games, night work. That was all. They opened that for us, and it was our job to go there and do it. And then it did. It rolls right over into everything you do in horse racing.
Yeah, you've capitalized, certainly. Alex, as I say, when I saw you over there, I knew we had to pull you in, being with the Godolphin Flying Start program. It's going to be fun to kind of root you along and see where you wind up in the industry, because so far, so good. It's been fun so far. So continue on. Have a great second year of the Godolphin Flying Start, and good luck going forward with whatever the plans are, and we'll have you back in here as you move along the career.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Alex Sausville, again, Godolphin Flying Start trainee at this point, but we'll look for him in the industry further up the ladder, certainly down the line. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning. Don't forget, the Syndicate will open up about noontime today. If you want to play that Saturday Syndicate, keep that in mind. The Clubhouse Racebook, it's a double promotion day down there. I will be looking through and have my show pool picks up on the website a little bit later on as well. So fun day. If you're thinking about coming up to the track, weather is gorgeous. So come on up. If not, you can stop by the Racebook or some of the other branches or Easy Bets and enjoy what looks like a really nice day of racing. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up as far as the morning programming. We're back in on Wednesday at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. for Racing Across America. So all of that coming up. But again, enjoy the racing this afternoon. Cash in some tickets. We'll see you Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. back here on the network for the Handicappers Report.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.